amazing results of 10 years of nut money. Here the chronicle stops quite abruptly. Not until 10 years later is a new money system mentioned. Until then, the nut money seems to have functioned entirely satisfactorily. The chronicle reports progressive and uninterrupted general prosperity, expressing itself in a high standard of art and culture. Also, the chronicler expresses his surprise that this general prosperity, in spite of all prophesying, did not disintegrate into social inequality. Apparently, there were no poor people during all these long years, because in the public budget there was not the least provision for public charity. Surprisingly small in volume is also the register of crimes. Again and again, the chronicler expresses his surprise that for purely commercial loans, no interest could be exacted. He expressly mentions that this did not happen because of religion or ethical reasons. He states that the supply of loan money equaled the demand, which naturally explains the fact of the interest-free loan. The Baratarians sold their product on strict business principles. That is, they always took as much as they could get. Had, therefore, the Baratarians been able to exact an interest premium for loans, they certainly would not have refrained from taking interest. This strange fact that in Barataria the supply of the loan market balanced the demand, the chronicler tries to explain as follows. Loans without interest charge. The supply of loans consisted of nuts of the Pinus moneta, which, as we know, were subject, like all other products, to constant depreciation. This depreciation, by imposing carrying costs, exerted a constant pressure on the holder of nuts. The loan giver could therefore not, like our present capitalist, hold back nuts to exact interest. He could not slam the door of the safe in the face of the borrower and say, "No interest, no money." With gold and our present money notes, this is possible, because gold and undepreciating paper notes are durable and impose no carrying cost. It was in this point that the money of the Baratonians differed from present-day money. By loaning money out without interest, the lender avoided the loss which he would have incurred by hoarding it. He lent 100 pounds of nuts, and after a year and a day, received 100 pounds of nuts in return. If he had stored the 100 pounds in the safe because he did not want to consent to interest-free loans, he would have found after this period only 90, 80, or 70 pounds. What were savers to do? Asked the chronicler. If they saved their own products, they suffer loss and expenses for maintenance and depreciation. If they invest their savings in the products of their fellow man, the result is the same. And if they save money, once again, it is the same. Thus, the interest-free loan is for the saver the simplest and most useful investment. But those citizens who require money only for the purchase of wares for their respective industries and trades do not store their money in the saving box. They shift the loss arising out of the depreciation from their own shoulders onto others by accelerating their buying. Thus, borrowers enjoy the advantage of loans without interest charges. Real capital, goods for amortization payments only. Entrepreneurs obtaining interest-free loans were prevented by the law of competition from charging up interest to their enterprises. They could build factories, apartment houses, ships, canals, without paying or charging interest. With us, every enterprise must yield at least as much interest as the entrepreneur has to pay interest for the use of loan money to the mortgage banks. Otherwise, the enterprise is financially impossible. For our entrepreneurs, interest is a transitory item in which they are not particularly interested. Whether they have to pay 3, 4, or 5% does not matter to them. What they pay, they must recover from the house, the ship, the factory. What remains to them are their wages. And the amount of this entrepreneur's wage is determined by the laws of general competition. So it was in Barataria, only with the difference that the interest system was discarded. The apartment houses in Barataria yielded in the rent only an amount sufficient to cover expenses for maintenance, rent on land which was collected by the state, and amortization. With the amount of amortization contained in the rent payment, the loan was gradually redeemed. Also, in trade, the merchandise was not given to the consumers burdened with interest, because the competitors started their price figuring from the basis of the interest-free loan. Savings through investment. The banks in Little Barataria were, in spite of the lively business, of slight importance. Mortgage land banks did not exist because in Barataria the land belonged to the community. It represented an entailed property of all the people, and you cannot mortgage entailed property. The Baratonian savers seem to have invested their savings mostly in the well-known enterprises known as corporations, either directly or through the medium of banks. Bills of exchange and checks were then practically unknown. Cash payment was the order of the day, almost without exception, which is explained by the chronicler by the facts that the country was small, and the nature of that money compelled everyone to get rid of it quickly. Sales on credit were practically unknown. He who, for special reasons, did not have the necessary money borrowed it from his friends and relatives and then paid cash. To trustworthy persons, there was an ample supply of loan money available. Big private storage rooms instead of little money hoards. The chronicler also mentions the general custom of the Baratonians in the matter of private storage. In every house, a special storage room was built, usually the pride of the lady of the house. These storage rooms were filled with the products for consumption. Instead of private money hoards, people had a store of provisions of all kinds.